All right, good morning, good morning. Hope everyone's all awesome and well. Give us a shout out in the chat if you can hear me. My camera's playing up a little bit this morning. So, hey, welcome along everyone. Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chat. Let me know if I'm coming in loud and clear. Hope you guys are awesome and well. That's good. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Sharon. Hey, Chris. Good morning. Kevin, Alison, Luke, Sean, Karen, Brendan, Chris, and great to see you guys on this morning. Hope you're having a good morning. Quick intros while things are warming up. Jason Witt's my name. Most of you already know that, but if you don't, if you're new, say a quick hello. Hey, Leonie. Good to hear you, or good to see you. Glad you can hear me. Kylie. Good to see you this morning as well. We've been doing these Wealth Coffee Chats for a while, haven't we, folks? But if you're new, you know, the idea of making sure we stay on top of what's going on out there in the marketplace. Lots of noise, as always, when it comes to the property market. Australia loves the property market, and everyone's got an opinion. Many of them are, I don't know, interesting, maybe. But I don't know about you, but most of us need to be able to collect information and make sense of it. And there's a lot of sort of rhetoric going around right at the moment, all about the world of debt and debt disaster, debt bombs, debt this, debt that, you know, terrifying language out there in the marketplace. So I thought we might touch base on that a little this morning and talk about a few things when it comes to the debt out there. But quick hellos and good mornings. James, Deb, Adrian, Natando, Graham, good morning to you guys. Great to have you on this morning. Good to see a bunch of you guys here with me for another Wealth Coffee Chat. The early bird gets the worm, as they say. So I wanted to talk about the idea of debt this morning, good debt versus bad debt. And I might skip over. Let me see if I can do this. There we go. There's, you know, the idea that many of us are taught when it comes to debt that there are, you know, all debt is terrible. We must pay everything off, and you know, the only way to get ahead in life is to, you know, buy a house. Don't do anything else other than pay off that mortgage. And one day, if you ever get a chance to pay that mortgage off, well, then you can start to do things. And I've heard this before too. I've heard, you know, advice in the past for people to say, all right, well, you know, if you can't save a 20% deposit in cash, then you shouldn't be buying something. Now, I don't know about you, you know, I don't know about you, but when I was first starting out, and, you know, my incomes and my expenses weren't largely different, and sometimes they were upside down. My expenses were more than my income. How do you save a 20% deposit in cash when it comes to, you know, investing in real estate? So, you know, the idea for most of us listening in on this call is we must get familiar with, we must understand debt and how it is applied and used carefully. Yeah, there you go, Karen. Yeah, you got to be careful. I mean, there is one piece of advice I've heard, probably, well, I have for the last 30 years doing this stuff, and it's, you know, spend less than you earn. Spend less than you earn. There's sound advice, isn't it? It's not really complicated. If you earn $100, well, spend 50 and try and save 50 if that's possible, all right? So there you go. But anyway, the idea that we must be comfortable and understand leverage and debt when it comes to our world as property investors is pretty important. But, you know, I was going to talk about this morning just quickly the cost of debt, and I'm going to talk about the good debt and bad debt conversation when it comes to, you know, our world as property investors. Tell me in the chat right now, if we're looking at, you know, our world, and there's two lines in our graph, what would we call bad debt? What would define bad debt, folks? Let's do that first. And what would define good debt? Tell me in the chat right now, what are the things that we would say when it comes to the bad debt world? Make it a bad debt. Karen's saying a car loan, yes. But specifically, Karen, what about that debt, that loan, a credit card? Yes, Lynn. What about that debt, or those things, credit cards, consumer debt, those things, Luke, for sure. What about that debt makes it what we would right here today define as a bad debt? Well, bad loans for personal use, absolutely, Deb. So a bad debt goes down. It usually buys something that goes down in value. Goes down in value, not earning money. Dead right, Karen. So let's say you buy something. No, it's not an asset. Dead right. So let's say you buy something like a car, okay, and unless it's a car for business and stuff like that, then that might be a different story. But today we're talking about most PAYG earners who are going to be property investors need to understand the difference. You buy a car, you buy it for 20 grand and you get a loan, and then it goes down in value. Down in value. So you buy something, you've got credit. So let's say you buy a car for $20,000 and you have a loan on it. How much is that car going to cost you if you pay it off over, let's say, 5 years? It's actually going to cost you, let's say, $15,000. Did I say, yeah? If you bought a car for $10,000, you have a loan on it for $10,000, pay it off over 5 years, it's going to cost you $15,000. And what's it going to be worth at the end? It's going to cost you 15 grand. And what's the car going to be worth at the end of the time when you pay it off, team? It's going to be worth 5. So, it's cost you 15, you paid 10, and it's worth 5, something that goes down in value, okay? Number 1, reduces in value. Number 2, it has no income. It has no income. There's no income value on that debt. If you buy something, let's say the car again, is it creating you? Yeah, nothing worse. Yeah, and then you've got a balloon payment. Yeah, exactly, Alison. Yeah. So it doesn't create an income. You buy something, it goes down in value. There's no income created by that thing that you have purchased. And it's non-deductible, right? So non-deductible, or not depreciable, okay? There's no deduction, there's no offset, there's no tax break, and there's no depreciation on that debt. So if you think about it right now, and the media talks about, terrifying people with the world of like the debt bubble going on at the moment. Well, if you have something that goes down in value, there's no income and there's no deductibility, then, if that's the sort of debt that you have and you've got a lot of that debt, okay, and often, ladies and gents, it is high interest as well, high interest, high percentage, often in, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15% interest payments, okay, on that sort of debt. So not attractive, not good for you at all, and bad debt will really massively affect your ability to earn and borrow, okay, or borrow from your earnings, okay. Now, one of the little interesting things in here, if you think about that, for many of us, tell me right now, a quick pop question, your home, your principal place of residence, the debt on that, what would you call the debt on your principal place of residence, your home? when it comes to bad debt or good debt? Tell me that in the chat. What do you guys think? Bad debt or good debt? And to be honest, it's a little bit of a trick question, as many of you might be thinking right now. Maybe, oh, gee, okay. Yeah. So, because, tell me, and here's where we look at our principal place of residence, our own home, and we go, let's follow along. Number one, let's have a look at the definition of what's happening with this stuff, right? We go, is that, yeah, okay, yeah, there's a few, they're kind of, both, bad debt, yeah, exactly. Right, so we're like, they're like, okay, so, now, number one, is it going up? By and large, over the medium to long term, is it going up or is it going down in value? Is it up or down in value? So, it's usually, most principal place of residence are going up in value, right? Okay. Number two, has it got an income? It has no income, okay? It has no income. And to be honest, it actually affects your serviceability often pretty averagely, right? And third, it doesn't have any deductions or depreciation. So tax, no deductions or depreciations. Deductions, okay? So, however, how can we turn this into becoming better or more useful? Now, someone said it there before. Who was it there? Lynn. And Lynn and Kylie, right? So, Lynn, if you pay that debt down, so if you pay your principal and interest, or not your principal and interest, sorry. If you pay your principal, your owner-occupier debt down, so pay your personal debt down, but like Kylie was saying there, you then use the equity for investments or investment properties, then that now becomes a good debt. So you're using your home. And you guys know this, you leverage the equity for sure, okay? So if you're sitting on your home and it's completely paid off, then that's great, but that's only half of the solution for most of us when it comes to unlocking this stuff as we go along, all right? So, it makes sense. We talk about the bad debt. Now let's talk about the good debt, right? So again, we want it to go up in value. We want it to create an income stream. It has an income. And 3, it has some tax deductibility and some deductions, all right? So when we're sitting there and we're thinking, all right, how does it work? What are we doing? It's probably worth us touching base and having a look at what is going on with your debt. Is your debt a bad debt or is it a good debt? And can you tune that up? Can you make it go a little bit faster, better, whatever it might be, okay? And I like this one here. I don't know if anyone's seen this before. This is kind of like the rich dad, poor dad stuff. Most people have an income. They have expenses, and then they have mostly liabilities in the form of bad debts. Those things like credit cards and car loans and other things like that. Now, you and I know that with these expenses, this is usually most people having a small amount of potential assets for the future. A small percentage of our money may be going, most Australians, it looks like this, your principal place of residence and your super, okay? And we've talked about that, if you're not using the equity in your home to get going forward, then you're just sitting on lazy money, like you got equity rich, but you're cash flow poor, asset poor. And super, many people aren't using their super or thinking that their super is for their future wealth, right? The wealthy people create income, they make sure their expenses are low, and they put most of their income towards assets. And you and I both know how are the wealthy, and including us right now as property investors, how do we reduce our expenses? What's your number one expense? Tell me that in the chat, folks. What's the number one expense for most PAYG career people here in Australia? What's the expense we can reduce if we invest in assets because we get deductions and offsets? Tell me that right now. That's what we're here this morning discussing anyway. All right. So that is property, which builds our assets, and it reduces, increases our income, but it reduces. Yeah, you might be right, Rodney. Yeah, kids, they're expensive. That is for sure. They're hidden expense, children. But tax, right? You know, the ATO takes their share before you even look at it in the PAYG world, right? As you go. So this is for all of us how to understand. If you can have good debt that goes up in value, it pays for itself and gives you some tax deductions, then for all of us, then that makes sense to understand what that looks like and how to make sure we can continue to borrow, right? And last but not least, you know, check it out, team. You know, at the end of the day, you know, for most of us, we've seen kind of, you know, 12 years of interest rates going down. Oh no, I'm rubbing out my picture. 12 years of interest rates going down. You can't really see that picture there. Sorry, it's a bit washed out with the lights this morning. But now we're getting this kicking up a little bit, right? So I reckon we're going to be up around here. This is the 5% mark, okay? And still, in relative terms, it's still pretty inexpensive long-term when it comes to debt, ladies and gents. So, you know, for me, for you, if you're structured well and you understand that, you know, there's ebb and flows in some of this stuff, you guys are all in position, you've got your buffers, you know, you can look to reset some of your mortgages if you need to, etc., etc. So, anyway, there you go. Wealth Coffee Chat done and dusted for the day, team. Good debt or bad debt, make sure you check in and have a look at where your debt is. And if you can, get your debt rearranged and redistributed in a way that creates wealth, creates income, and is tax deductible. There you go. Anyway, Wealth Coffee Chat done and dusted. I think that's about all I've got to say today. You guys be awesome. Be well. Thanks for joining me. Good to see you, all of you guys. Jeff, Chris, Kylie, Alison, Simon, Lynn, Patrick, Luke. Who else we got there? You know, Deb, Karen, Laura. Great to see all of you guys. So there you go. You guys be well. A basic one today, but, you know, it's a powerful one. Remember that debt is not created equal. Not all debt is created equal. All right, folks, be good. See you tomorrow for another Wealth Coffee Chat, around about the same time. If you're up for it, about 8:10. All right, adios, folks.